What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another DU draft review. This edition is covering the Dynasty Underdog Listener League 4 draft. It's a Dynasty Superflex, full PPR, 1.5 tight end premium startup. Let's dive right into it. The draft order in our Dynasty Underdog Listener Leagues is selected through a Kentucky Derby style draft, so we were able to select where we wanted to be in the startup. I forgot exactly how it occurred, but I chose to be at the 111. I prefer to be somewhere where I can double tap, whether it's the front end or the back end. Obviously, the front end was taken at this point, so I was left with something either in the middle or the back end, and I would much rather be able to double tap or almost double tap, and the 111 is perfectly fine from that perspective for me. So we'll be reviewing this draft from the lens of the 111, as that's where I had my selections, and I feel like it ended up pretty good based on how the board fell to me. And sometimes I just like to see how the board's going to fall to me and make the best pick I can. I'm a value hawk and I want to approach it that way, right? Just take the value that's falling. Typically, I see people either moving up to reach on a player, whatever it may be. So I don't want to be doing that as much as possible. So from the 111 here is an easy choice for me, Jamar Chase. What else are you going to do when the arguable dynasty wide receiver 1-2 falls into your lap? You're going to take him, right? Typically, I would really go Anthony Richardson or something like that from here. I was hoping that Anthony Richardson made it back around, but my boy Josh sniped me on that pick.
The sniper's got talent.
But it was kind of expected. I figured that would happen knowing that I had another option here. But again, typically at the back end, the 111, I'm going to maybe go like a Kyler Murray, Anthony Richardson, maybe a Jordan Love if you're feeling really saucy that day.
Lost in the sauce.
In this position I was put in, I felt like it was a pretty easy choice to go Jamar Chase. Kind of surprised CeeDee Lamb went before me there. Then I'm going to come back around after Anthony Richardson goes. I'm really high on him, but okay. I'm going to take a shot on Kyler Murray. I think Kyler is going to have a bounce back. They clearly are buying into him. At least that's everything we're seeing from the team. He's their guy. And they're probably going to add Marvin Harrison Jr. to that team or something like that, right? They're going to add a serious weapon on the offense, I expect, and they already have Trey McBride there, Marquise Brown potentially making it back, obviously free agency, but a lot going, I think, Kyler Murray's way. So with the rushing upside and all that, I think it's a great option for fantasy purposes. The next pick here, I think actually being at the back end is a little challenging here in the third round because you're not certain you're going to get one of those elite tight ends. And some people may think differently. I mean, you can get Travis Kelce late. That's definitely an option, but I'm trying to reach for some sustainability, especially at the tight end position. I don't want to have to think about it too long. And I think we all agree that Kelce is not long for the league, even if he gives you another really good year. So for me here, I'm a big Mark Andrews guy. I think tight end one still, I think he has a lot of years left. Great offense, Lamar Jackson. But I have the Lamar Jackson manager sitting in front of me here at what would be my third pick at 311. So I decided to, I think I sent a third or something, I think a future third for Mark Andrews to hop up to the 3.8. So I jumped up 2 spots for a future third to grab my tight end one as I saw, Sam Laporta, Trey McBride going. So that was just a gut decision I had to make. I'm not sure that Lamar Jackson manager would have taken Mark Andrews, but I really didn't want to risk that. I've actually had Mark Andrews slip out of my hands a few drafts, so I didn't want that to happen again here, and I thought he was a pretty good value there. So that's why I did that. Coming back around to the 4.02, I was really happy to get to Tagovailoa, and that's just because I think he's getting a bad rap right now. I think he's a really good quarterback, stable quarterback. I don't think that he's offering immense upside, that's for sure, but I think I do think the offense that he's in offers immense upside, and you've seen what he can do on a week-to-week basis. So I think for your QB2, he's a good pick. I don't think I can really let him fall any further, and I don't really want to pick out of the mishmash of wide receivers and the Nico Collins, Jalen Waddle, Zay Flowers, that range. Like, I like a lot of those guys for sure, but I think it's a group of very similar scoring players, similar guys, and you can get some similar scoring players and similar guys in later rounds. So coming back around at the 511, I went Jackson Smith and Jigba here. And I just still really believe in Jackson Smith and Jigba. If you listen to any of our content, we've talked about this. I had Paul Patterson on the show a week or two ago, and he's not a big fan of Jackson Smith and Jigba, but I do think that his rookie season is a bit underrated given the situation he was in. So I have high hopes for him. After this is part of my strategy. I didn't reach for any of the top rookie picks, and the rookie picks are kickers in here. We're going to have a rookie draft in the future. That's part of this. Obviously, you see these kickers going early. I didn't want to reach for any of the rookie picks, but I did feel like this was a good time to go after. I believe it's the 109 I took here, and I ended up taking, I think coming back around, I took the 112 is what it ended up being. 11, 12. Yeah. So I took the 109 and the 112 back to back, but those weren't back to back picks. So that wasn't a double tap, but it ended up working out that way. And that's part of my strategy, is not reaching for these rookie picks, because especially this year, it's a little bit deeper. So I think that you can get some good value there, and you don't need to reach for those early ones, especially if you trust your evaluation process. So that's how I'm thinking about that. Then I go to Kittle, pick at 8-2. I think that he's just a really good value in the 8th round. That's pretty much as simple as that. A little bit of a reach maybe on Josh Downs here, but I do feel like I'd rather him over most of these receivers who have some warts on their profiles. And while there's definitely some question to whether Josh Downs can be what we want him to be, I do think that he offers some more upside. He's super young in that Anthony Richardson offense that I obviously believe in, if I believe in Anthony Richardson. So I'm kind of excited about Josh Downs. Michael Mayer here coming next. Obviously, I went tight end heavy. That wasn't necessarily on purpose, but I felt like they were all good values. And Michael Mayer, I think, is a breakout candidate for 2024. And I think early in the 10th round there, it's pretty good value, especially again with these wide receivers, I think, who are similar and again have warts, and I'm not super excited about. So I obviously went zero running back here. That's a huge part of my strategy. Usually I go hero or zero. I'd like to more than not go hero, but Jahmyr Gibbs, Breece Hall, all these guys went before I could really pick them. I'm not going to pick them at 2-2. So then I decided, let me just fade it. And I think it's a perfectly fine year to do that again and go zero running back. I get Joe Mixon at 11-11, James Conner, 12-02. That's incredibly good value for guys who are most likely going to be starters. I'm not even a big Joe Mixon guy, but I do feel like that is appropriate value for a guy who is likely going to be a starter, 1A, 1B type thing. And James Conner, definitely going to be the starter. Kind of get to pair him with Kyler Murray. Not that that's like, what I need to do, want to do, but it's nice coincidence, and it's helpful in certain game situations, obviously, to have stacks. So I do like that. After this, I pretty much hammer home running back and picks the rest of the way, right? Because I went zero running back, so I'm going to go take, the Chase Browns of the world. Going to take another rookie pick somewhere in the 2nd or 3rd, another rookie pick. Dameon Pierce, I think, is great value in the 17th. Down the list, you can see I'm just pretty much hammering running back picks, maybe a QB here and there where I made some minor trades and all that. But looking at this, I think from the back end, from the 111, the 112, maybe even the 110, a very viable strategy is zero running back, always hero running back. But I think a viable strategy here is zero running back. You can hammer away at quarterback, at wide receiver, running back, tight end, kind of whatever you feel is the appropriate place where the value is falling. For me, it did feel a little bit like at some point it was tight ends and some young wide receivers like Jackson Smith-Njigba or Josh Downs, who I felt like had maybe more upside after the vets went, and some of those wide receivers with questionable profiles and age, right? I mean, Josh Downs 22. So that's kind of the route I went, hammer home those running backs at the end of the draft. And I think this one went really well for me. I'm actually pretty happy with how this team turned out. I think that with these picks, I have some liquidity. I can make some trades before the draft if I want to. I can turn some of these into, maybe a better running back with one of the picks, like a more, sustainable dynasty running back 1 type player, or I can go get maybe a more sustainable wide receiver with these picks, or I just hold the picks, get to the draft, and maybe I can make some really good selections there. So that's kind of the idea of this strategy. Obviously, maintaining some youth, some long-term stability with like a Jamar Chase, the Mark Andrews pick, but also hitting some upside with the Kyler Murray. Obviously, some risk in Tua, but I do think that is kind of like a floor pick. So this is kind of the general ideas that I'm working with, and the general approach I'm working with as I go through these drafts and as I go through this draft. So I will definitely have another draft review coming out soon. I'm actually going to do a mini one on another draft I'm currently in. I think it's helpful. I'm actually picking on the other end at the 103. But again, it's early pick where I do feel like that's close enough to the double tap strategy I like, where I can maybe hit on 2 value picks back to back or close to it. And there's a little bit of a different approach I think that you can take from the 103. So I want to discuss kind of how, I went about that. So keep a lookout. There'll be a ton more. Look out for the film rooms. Look out for more draft strategy videos. We have another ranking symposium coming out, and always the weekly live. So appreciate everybody tuning in. Subscribe and stay tuned for more.